What happened here anyway?
Yeah, he pulled out a gun.
He did?
Yeah, and Jose just took the gun away from him. One of them has it now. He showed it to me. And they proceeded to put him down on the ground and start kicking him. And he has a couple stab wounds in his back.
Throughout human history, we see people struggling to overcome the challenges presented not only by nature but by their fellow man. We see a fight ensue in which people must either adapt or die. Those who embrace the best parts of a society and are open to changes in their beliefs and customs to better the life of their community are the ones that will ultimately prosper. No one conveys this message better than Bessie Head. Her story, When Rain Clouds Gather, tells of the story of what happens when people are open-minded and willing to change their beliefs. Bessie Head was the result of an illegal relationship between a wealthy white woman and a black father. She was born in an asylum on July 6, 1937. She did not know her parents since her mother was deemed mentally unstable and her father disappeared. Her childhood was spent bouncing between foster families. This is similar to the main character Micaiah and how he began to move around from one place to another after being accused of being a terrorist. After Bessie graduated school, she became a primary school teacher and journalist. She became involved with the Pan-Africanist Congress protesting the apartheid regime. Head shows her utter dislike of South Africa and the apartheid regime in the book When Dinorego calls South Africa a terrible place and tells Micaiah that, quote, the good God don't like it, end quote. Head was present at the Sharpeville shootings in 1960 when police fired upon protesters. This event traumatized her and she applied for refugee status in Botswana. Once again, this is much like the character Micaiah and how he fled South Africa because of the injustice there, leading him to apply for his refugee status in Botswana. This is shown when Micaiah says at the beginning of the book that, quote, I just want to step on free ground, end quote, showing how the natives are basically captives to the Europeans in South Africa. Bessie Head gained her Botswana citizenship in 1979. Head later died on April 17, 1989, and is revered as one of Botswana's most influential writers. The story When Rain Clouds Gather opens in apartheid South Africa. Africans faced segregation in public places there and were required to carry papers in white cities. In South Africa, all non-Europeans were segregated against. As the political situation intensified in the 1950s, the government sanctioned that black and whites could not associate in religious educational areas. In 1956, the vote for non-whites was repealed. Africans still faced oppression until 1994. This injustice is also displayed in the book when Head describes Micaiah's reasons for leaving Botswana. In the text, Head says, quote, his reasons for leaving were simple. He could not marry and have children in a country where black men were called boy and dog and kafir, end quote. The country of Botswana is very arid and regular rainfall may occur every 10 years. This is shown in the book when Head says that, quote, the land on either side of the footpath was loose wind-blown sand and thorn bush, end quote. Rainfall can be very localized and unpredictable. Despite these difficulties, Botswana has become one of the most stable economies in Africa. The two major industries in Botswana are livestock and mining. The main profession that the book When Rain Clouds Gathers focuses on is farming and livestock. Upon its independence, Botswana had just 12 kilometers of paved road and the per capita income was $70. As of 2007, Botswana had 7,000 kilometers of paved roads and the per capita income had risen to about $6,100. Botswana's success can be attributed to the good governance policies and in some cases can be attributed to luck. Botswana did not initially fall into the traps that mineral-prone governments fall into. When the government owns the mineral resources, they are the primary recipients of revenue from mining. The wealth concentrated in the hands of the government gives way to dictatorships and civil conflicts. Botswana has the fortune of having a homogeneous population. This created less of a potential for polarization of different ethnic groups. The government establishes property rights and the rule of law, ensuring transparency and security. The Botswana government kept the Tswana tribal tradition of collaboration. This allowed the tribes to act as one for their interest and compromise with the other tribes. Botswana also implemented a fiscal surplus. The government also invested heavily in infrastructure and human capital. This policy prevented the collapse of domestic activity. High fiscal saving. The Botswana government put safeties and checks in place. They utilized new and old ideas to accomplish their missions. The transition to these policies is what Head focuses on in her book. Throughout the book, Head uses characters such as Gilbert, Micaiah, and Paulina to show that change is sometimes necessary to improve a community. In the book When Rain Clouds Gather, Head mentions many problems in Botswana that hold the country back from prospering. The main problem that Head addresses is that people of Botswana hold too closely to the ancient tribes and traditions of their ancestors. The people of each tribe wanted nothing to do with the tribes of a lower status. This is clearly shown in the text when Gilbert suggested the people of Galima Midi to grow millet instead of corn because it would grow better in the area. However, the people rejected this idea because millet was deemed a crop for the people of a lower status tribes. Because of the prejudice of the tribes, the people could not improve their crop production, which hurts the community. In addition, these tribal traditions ultimately lead to many other problems in the community that cause a lack of progress. For example, one aspect of many cultures that was shown in the text was the dominance of man. Women had very little say in Botswana. In the book, Head shows how women had to stay and take care of their homes and families while the men were out grazing the cattle. However, the men still had dominance at home because they were able to go further in education and were given a chance to do things outside the home. Women, however, had to rely on their husbands for income to survive. This is clearly shown in Paulina's life. When her husband died, she had to have her son take their cattle to graze in the fields so that the family could survive. In addition to the problem of the dominance of man, another problem that rooted from ancient traditions was the corruption of the government. In the book, the governing system shows to be corrupted by the people that run it. In the book, the head government figure in Galimidi is Chief Matenge. Matenge is disliked by the people of Galimidi because of the way that he corrupts the community for his own personal gain. If he disliked a person, he would exile them from the land. However, he was not the only chief that was corrupted society for their own personal gain. Matenge's brother, the main chief Sekokoto, was also guilty of finding ways to promote his own life by hurting the community. According to Bessie Head, the chief of the land lived off the slave labor of the poor. They took advantage of their high positions and found ways to promote their own images, even at the expense of the people that they were meant to lead. Lastly, one of the main problems in Botswana that inhibited progress was the prejudice of foreigners of the land. In the book, the main characters, Micaiah, Gilbert, and Paulina, were all foreigners to the land, which led the people of the area to not trust them. An example of this is when the people of Galimidi did not trust Gilbert and the farming techniques he showed them because he was an outsider. According to many people in the land, Gilbert still was a part of a different world. This is shown when Maria says, quote, "Gilbert does not live in this world, but in some world in which I know nothing," end quote. Because of the mistrust of foreigners, Gilbert had trouble getting the people of the area to trust his farming methods to help improve the crop production to also improve the meat of the cattle. However, Bessie Head does not just show the reader what the problems that inhibit progress in Botswana are. Instead, she shows the reader how people need to overcome these problems to bring success to the community. For example, to overcome gender inequality, Head suggests that people need to become like Paulina and Micaiah. Micaiah is a man that treats both sexes as equals. This is shown when the women that were learning farming techniques from him were stunned by the way he treated them. According to Bessie Head, quote, "They were unaccustomed to a man speaking to them as an equal," end quote. This ultimately allowed them to talk with him and be comfortable around him, and they were able to efficiently build the shed for tobacco. This shows that if men started treating women as their equal, ideas will be created and spread, and more work will be done in the community to help it. However, men will not easily change to this. Bessie Head also informs the reader that women must step up like Paulina and take charge. Paulina demands that she should be treated as an equal and is willing to break customs in order to do so. When Micaiah asks Paulina about the woman who showed up to the tobacco growing lesson, she tells him, quote, "We who are the braves, we are the only women who have smoked cigarettes and drunk beer. That is why whatever we do is also done by the other women, though they are afraid to smoke and drink because they will be beaten by their husbands." End quote. Paulina is saying that the women that showed up are the ones that are willing to break customs to gain equality with men and make a difference in society. Head is telling women through Paulina that they need to fight for their equality. In addition, Head also offers a solution to the mistrust of foreigners through the friendship of Micaiah and Gilbert. Both of them are foreigners, but yet they still find a way to trust each other. The best example of this is through the long conversations between both of them one night. There was one night where the, quote, "two men chatted like ancient blood brothers," end quote, throughout the night. Gilbert trusted Micaiah to communicate his ideas to the women of the area, and through this trust, the two of them were able to work together to allow the community to prosper. Lastly, another remedy to a problem in Botswana was the solution to the government corruption. At the end of the book, the community of Galima Midi came together to protest the appeal that Chief Matench had made against Paulina. Because the community was able to overcome all their differences and gather together at Chief Matench's house, Matench saw that it was really the people that ruled the area and had dominance, which caused him to commit suicide. Head shows the reader that it is when the community comes together and overcomes the differences in tribes, genders, and backgrounds that change will happen. Bessie Head clearly showed what a community must do to allow it to prosper in the book When Rain Clouds Gather. According to her, change in society will only happen when the people that belong to it overcome their differences and come together as a cohesive unity to formulate ideas to better the community. This is shown to be effective in both the book as well as in the actual country of Botswana. In the book, the people of Galima Midi were able to come together to fight against the chief and to begin to make a difference in the growing of their crops to create a cash crop system. Similarly, because Botswana became a more homogeneous population, the people who lived there were able to come together to utilize old and new methods to secure the success and safety of their country.